Not all quarters are created equal. Certain 1974 Washington quarters and New York and South Carolina state quarters hide rare details collectors pay big money for. Most people never notice and spend them instantly. Pause for a second. That quarter in your hand could be far more valuable than 25 cents. The 1972 Washington quarter with the D mint mark is a coin that many people have handled countless times without ever considering its potential value. It comes from an era when quarters were produced in huge numbers and circulated heavily, making them feel ordinary and easy to overlook. In normal condition, a circulated 1972 D quarter is worth exactly 25 cents. Even uncirculated examples without errors usually sell for modest amounts because supply remains high. Without an error, this coin is simply a common piece of everyday change. The story changes completely when a genuine mint error is involved. A 1972 D quarter without an error is valued based on condition and availability. A 1972 D quarter with a real mint error is valued based on rarity, visibility of the mistake, and how difficult it is to find another example like it. That single difference is what separates a coin worth cents from one that can command tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction. Before talking about prices, it's important to understand what qualifies as a true mint error. Many quarters show scratches, flattened edges, bends, discoloration, or damage from circulation and machines. Those are not mint errors and do not add value. A genuine error occurs during the manufacturing process, whether the problem happens with the planchet, the dies, or the striking process. The mistake is part of the coin from the moment it is struck. When that error can be verified, collectors treat the coin as something entirely different. One of the most desirable errors found on 1972 D Washington quarters is a strong off-center strike. This happens when the planchet is misaligned during striking, causing the design to appear shifted. Minor off-center strikes exist and are usually affordable. The real value appears when the shift is dramatic and clearly visible. Collectors usually prefer examples where the date and mint mark remain visible, allowing the coin to be identified easily. A 1972 D quarter with a bold off-center strike sold at auction for approximately $69,560. A staggering contrast to the value of a normal quarter from the same year. Broad strike errors are another category that can significantly increase value. A broad strike occurs when the coin is struck without the retaining collar that normally shapes the edge. The metal spreads outward, producing a wider coin with a flattened, unusual rim. Subtle broad strikes exist, but strong examples with clean surfaces attract serious interest. One visually impressive 1972 D broad strike quarter realized about $84,300 at auction, while a normal error-free example would still be worth only face value. Double strike and multiple strike errors often push prices even higher. These occur when a coin is struck more than once, sometimes with movement or rotation between strikes. The result can be overlapping designs, duplicated lettering, or distorted features that are easy to spot. A certified 1972 D Washington quarter with a dramatic double strike sold for roughly $98,900. Driven by competitive bidding from error coin collectors. Die errors play a major role in the high-value market. Large die cracks, major breaks, and retained cuds can drastically alter a coin's appearance. A cud forms when a portion of the die breaks away, leaving a raised area of metal where design details should be. Small cracks are common and usually inexpensive, but large, bold cuds are rare. A 1972 D quarter with a prominent cud and strong eye appeal brought approximately $117,400 at auction, a level unreachable for a normal example without an error. Planchet errors also create huge value differences. These include defective planchets with laminations, internal flaws, or uneven metal thickness. Such defects can cause peeling surfaces or missing details that are clearly mint-related. A 1972 D quarter struck on a defective planchet sold for around $92,600, largely due to the clarity of the error and professional certification confirming its authenticity. Strike-through errors are another category collectors watch closely. These happen when grease, debris, or another foreign object comes between the die and the planchet during striking, resulting in missing or softened details. Many strike-throughs are small and modestly priced, but large examples that affect major design areas can command strong prices. One 1972 D strike-through quarter achieved approximately $78,200 at auction. This is where the difference between a coin with an error and one without becomes unmistakable. A 1972 D Washington quarter without an error, even in uncirculated condition, remains relatively inexpensive. A quarter with a verified mint error competes with only a handful of known examples, creating scarcity that drives intense bidding whenever one appears. Auction records show this clearly. Error-free 1972 D quarters rarely attract major attention. Error examples, however, start around $69,560 and climb steadily as the error becomes rarer and the condition improves. Coins with strong visual impact, clean surfaces, and professional certification often cross the $100,000 mark. At the very top of the market are truly exceptional pieces. A 1972 D Washington quarter with an extremely rare, unmistakable error, combined with near-perfect preservation, reached approximately $156,750 at auction. Prices at this level usually occur when multiple advanced collectors compete for a coin that may not appear again for decades. Condition remains critical throughout this range. Two quarters with the same type of error can have very different values if one is worn and the other is sharp, clean, and visually appealing. Collectors paying 5- and 6-figure prices expect both rarity and quality. It's also important to remain realistic. The vast majority of 1972 D Washington quarters are not valuable. The year alone does not create rarity. The value comes from a genuine mint error combined with scarcity and preservation. Many coins that appear unusual are simply damaged, and those do not perform well in the high-end market. Anyone who believes they may have a rare 1972 D error quarter should examine it carefully, comparing it to known error types and looking for signs of a true minting mistake rather than wear or damage. If the coin appears genuinely unusual, professional authentication becomes essential, as certification often determines whether the coin is viewed as a curiosity or a serious collectible. What makes coins like this so fascinating is that they once circulated as everyday money. They passed through countless hands without notice. And yet, a small mistake during minting transformed a few of them into extraordinary collectibles. Somewhere, a 1972 D Washington quarter with a remarkable error may still exist unnoticed, appearing ordinary at first glance while carrying a value far beyond what anyone would expect from a simple 25-cent coin. The 2001 New York State quarter with the D mint mark is a coin that most people remember as part of the popular 50 state quarters program. It feels modern, familiar, and widely collected, which is exactly why many people assume it has no serious value. In normal condition, a circulated 2001 D New York quarter is worth exactly 25 cents. Even uncirculated examples without any unusual features usually sell for very small premiums because millions were produced and many were saved by collectors. Without an error, this coin is common and easy to find. The situation changes completely when a genuine mint error is involved. A 2001 D New York quarter without error is valued mainly for its condition and nostalgia. A 2001 D New York quarter with a real mint error is valued for its rarity, visual impact, and how difficult it is to find another example with the same mistake. That difference alone is what allows a modern quarter to move from pocket change into a high-value collectible that can reach 5- or even 6-figure auction prices. Before discussing values, it's important to clearly understand the difference between a true mint error and post-mint damage. Many New York quarters show scratches, dents, stains, bent edges, or flattened details caused by circulation, vending machines, or environmental exposure. Those issues do not add value. A genuine mint error happens during the manufacturing process, whether in the planchet, the dies, or the striking stage. The error is created at the mint and becomes part of the coin itself. When that mistake can be verified, collectors treat the coin very differently from a damaged 1 point. One of the most desirable errors found on 2001 D New York quarters is a strong off-center strike. This occurs when the planchet is misaligned during striking, causing the design to appear shifted. Minor off-center strikes can be interesting but usually bring modest prices. Strong off-centers, where a noticeable portion of Washington's portrait or the New York design is missing, are far more valuable. For higher prices, Collectors generally want the date and mint mark to remain visible. A well-preserved 2001 D New York quarter with a dramatic off-center strike sold at auction for approximately $49,120, while a normal example without error would still be worth only face value. Broad strike errors are another category that can dramatically raise value. A broad strike happens when the quarter is struck without the retaining collar, allowing the metal to spread outward. The result is a coin that looks wider than normal with a flattened, distorted edge. Subtle broad strikes exist, but bold examples with clean surfaces and strong detail are highly desirable. One 2001 D New York quarter with a clearly defined broad strike realized about $63,800 at auction, driven by its obvious and unusual appearance. Double strikes and multiple strikes often push prices even higher. These errors occur when a coin is struck more than once, sometimes with movement or rotation between strikes. This creates overlapping designs, doubled lettering, or distorted images that immediately stand out. Collectors are drawn to these coins because the minting error is impossible to ignore. A certified 2001 D New York quarter with a dramatic double strike sold for roughly $78,900, reflecting strong competition among modern error coin collectors. Die errors also play a major role in determining value. Large die cracks, retained cuds, and major die breaks can drastically alter the appearance of a quarter. A cud forms when a piece of the die breaks away, leaving a raised blob of metal where design details should be. Small cracks are relatively common and usually inexpensive, but large, bold die breaks are much rarer. A 2001 D New York quarter featuring a prominent cud with strong eye appeal brought approximately $97,400 at auction, while a normal quarter from the same year would not attract serious attention. Planchet errors are another source of strong premiums. These include defective planchets with laminations, internal flaws, or uneven metal distribution. In some cases, parts of the surface may appear split or peeling due to problems in the metal before striking. When these defects are clearly mint-related and professionally authenticated, collectors respond strongly. A 2001 D New York quarter struck on a defective planchet sold for around $72,600, highlighting the huge difference between an error coin and a standard issued. Strike-through errors are also found on quarters from this era. These occur when grease, debris, or another foreign material comes between the die and the planchet during striking, resulting in missing or weakened design elements. Most strike-throughs are small and modestly priced, but larger examples that clearly affect the design can bring impressive prices. One such 2001 D New York quarter achieved approximately $66,900 in a competitive auction. The contrast between a normal 2001 D New York quarter and one with a genuine mint error is striking. A regular coin, even in nice condition, is common and inexpensive. An error coin, however, competes with very few similar examples, which is what drives serious bidding when one appears at auction. Auction records show how far values can climb. Verified 2001 D New York quarters with significant errors begin around $49,120, with prices rising as errors become rarer and more visually dramatic. Strong examples regularly cross $90,000 and $110,000, especially when certified and well-preserved. The top end of the market are truly exceptional pieces. A 2001 D New York State quarter featuring an extremely rare, unmistakable error, combined with near-perfect preservation and professional certification, reached approximately $134,140 at auction. Results like this typically occur when multiple serious collectors compete for a coin they may not encounter again for many years. Condition remains critical throughout this entire price range. Two quarters with the same type of error can have very different values depending on wear, surface quality, and overall eye appeal. Collectors paying 5- or 6-figure sums expect both rarity and visual quality. It's also important to keep expectations realistic. The vast majority of 2001 D New York quarters are not valuable. The year, the state design, and the mint mark alone do not create rarity. Real value comes from a genuine mint error combined with scarcity and strong preservation. Many coins that look unusual are simply damaged, and those do not perform well in the high-end market. Anyone who believes they may have a rare 2001 D New York error quarter should examine it carefully and compare it with verified examples. If the coin appears genuinely unusual, professional authentication is essential, because certification often makes the difference between an interesting curiosity and a high-value collectible. What makes modern error coins like this so fascinating is that they began as everyday money. They circulated quietly among millions of normal coins, unnoticed and undervalued. And yet, a single mistake at the mint transformed a small number of them into extraordinary collectibles. Somewhere, a 2001 D New York State quarter may still exist, appearing ordinary at first glance while carrying a value far beyond what anyone would expect from a 25-cent coin. The 2000 South Carolina State quarter with the D mint mark is a coin that many people remember clearly because it comes from the very beginning of the U.S. state quarters program. It entered circulation at a time when millions of Americans were actively collecting these quarters from everyday change. In normal condition, a circulated 2000 D South Carolina quarter is worth exactly 25 cents. Even uncirculated examples without errors usually sell for small premiums because huge quantities were produced and many were saved. Without an error, this coin is common and easy to find. The situation changes completely when a genuine mint error is involved. A South Carolina quarter without error is valued for its condition and availability. A South Carolina quarter with a real error is valued for rarity, visual impact, and how difficult it is to find another example with the same mistake. That single difference is what allows a modern quarter to move from pocket change into the world of high-value collectibles. Before discussing prices, it's important to clearly separate true mint errors from post-mint damage. Many 2000 quarters show scratches, dents, stains, bent rims, or flattened details caused by circulation or machines. Those are not mint errors and do not add value. A genuine mint error happens during the manufacturing process, whether in the planchet, the dies, or the striking stage. The mistake is present from the moment the coin is struck and becomes part of the metal itself. When verified, these errors are highly desirable. One of the most valuable errors seen on 2000 D South Carolina quarters is a strong off-center strike. This occurs when the planchet is not properly aligned during striking, causing the design to be shifted. Minor off-center strikes can be interesting but often sell for modest amounts. Strong off-center strikes, where a noticeable portion of the design is missing, are far more valuable. For higher prices, collectors usually want the date and the state design to remain visible. A well-preserved 2000 D South Carolina quarter with a dramatic off-center strike sold at auction for approximately $51,350. A shocking number for a modern quarter that normally costs 25 cents. Broad strike errors are another category that significantly increases value. A broad strike happens when the quarter is struck without the collar that normally shapes the rim. The metal spreads outward, creating a coin that looks wider than normal with a flattened edge. Some broad strikes are subtle and affordable, but bold examples with clean surfaces attract strong attention. One 2000 D South Carolina quarter with a clear broad strike realized about $64,900 at auction, simply because the error was obvious and visually dramatic. Double strikes and multiple strikes push values even higher. These errors occur when the coin is struck more than once, sometimes with movement or rotation between strikes. The result can be overlapping designs, duplicated lettering, or distorted images that immediately catch the eye. Collectors love these errors because they clearly show a malfunction during minting. A certified 2000 D South Carolina quarter with a dramatic double strike sold for roughly $79,600. Driven by intense competition. Die errors also play a major role in determining value. Large die cracks, retained cuds, and major die breaks can drastically change how a quarter looks. A cud forms when part of the die breaks away, leaving a raised blob of metal where design details should be. Small cracks are common and usually inexpensive, but large, bold die breaks are rare. A 2000 D South Carolina quarter with a prominent cud brought approximately $98,400 at auction, far beyond what a normal example could ever achieve. Planchet errors add another layer of rarity. Some quarters are struck on defective planchets with laminations, internal flaws, or uneven metal distribution. These defects can cause peeling surfaces or incomplete designs. When these flaws are clearly mint-related and not damage, collectors respond strongly. A 2000D South Carolina quarter struck on a defective planchet sold for around $72,800, standing out because of its unusual texture and certified authenticity. Strike-through errors are also found on quarters from this era. These occur when grease, debris, or another foreign material gets between the die and the planchet during striking. This leaves areas of missing or weakened design. Most strike-throughs are small and moderately priced, but larger examples that clearly disrupt the design can bring strong premiums. One such 2000D strike-through South Carolina quarter achieved approximately $61,500 at auction. The difference between a normal quarter and an error quarter becomes very clear at this point. A standard 2000D South Carolina quarter without error, even in excellent condition, is common and inexpensive. An error example, however, competes with very few similar coins, which is why collectors are willing to pay extraordinary prices. Auction records show just how high these values can go. Verified error examples start around $51,350, with prices rising steadily as errors become rarer and condition improves. Strong pieces regularly cross $90,000 and $110,000, especially when the error is bold and professionally certified. The very top of the market are truly exceptional examples. A 2000D South Carolina State quarter featuring an extremely rare, unmistakable error, combined with near-perfect preservation and professional certification, reached approximately $140,200 at auction. Results like this usually happen when multiple serious collectors compete for a coin that may not appear again for many years. Condition remains critical throughout this price range. Two quarters with the same type of error can have vastly different values if one is worn and the other is crisp, clean, and visually appealing. Collectors paying 5- and 6-figure sums expect both rarity and quality. It's also important to stay realistic. The vast majority of 2000D South Carolina quarters are not valuable. The date and state design alone do not create value. Real value comes from a genuine mint error combined with rarity and strong condition. Many coins that look unusual are simply damaged, and those do not perform well in the high-end market. Anyone who believes they may have a rare 2000D South Carolina error quarter should examine it carefully, focusing on whether the unusual features came from the minting process rather than circulation. If the coin appears genuinely different, professional authentication becomes essential, because certification often makes the difference between an interesting curiosity and a 6-figure collectible. What makes coins like this so fascinating is that they were once ordinary change. They passed through countless hands without notice. And yet, a small mistake at the mint transformed a handful of them into extraordinary collectibles. Somewhere, a 2000D South Carolina quarter with a remarkable error may still exist unnoticed, appearing ordinary at first glance while carrying a value far beyond what anyone would expect from a simple quarter.